Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diamond Drive Season 4, the second round of this brand new season, live from Laguna Seca. Early morning here in the middle of California. I know a lot of people would call this NorCal, but for me, it's sort of in the middle, and I'll dispute that till the day I die. Hello, I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Nate and Jake the Bosmeister Boswell on the cameras. Race number 2, a little bit lighter on drivers than we had in the opening round, but we have some explaining to do based on that. We'll get into that in just a minute. Before then, welcome in, Nate. Laguna Seca, you either love it or hate it. Where do you sit on that fence?
I love it, honestly. I probably don't like corkscrew because I can never get it right. And I'm either in the tire barrier on the far side of corkscrew or I'm backwards at the bottom of it. But the rest of the track I really, really like. Got no grievance. The only grievance I've got at the minute, Jesse, is you saying that it's not on the West Coast, which is wrong. I'm
No,
gonna argue
no,
with
no,
you on
no,
that one.
not on the West Coast. They see Californians, okay, and I'm not making fun of you if you are Californian out there, but Californians divide California into North and South. I say the Laguna Seca area, the Salinas area of California, is in the middle. A lot of people would argue San Francisco is a NorCal city. It's not. It's in slap bang in the middle, and that's how I see it. But they all say it's NorCal. But this is realistically dead center in the middle of the state.
That one I may agree with you with, but I will never admit to agreeing to you.
Well, I personally love this racetrack. It's a very unique challenge. I know the drivers do not particularly enjoy GT racing here as much as they do at some other places, but you have a lot of tracks like that in ACC, and well, if we have them all, we're going to use them all. And like we said, early morning practice session for the 14 drivers in tow, and let's get right into it. We've had a number of drivers not show for today's race, but a lot of them have very good reasons.
Yeah, I mean, a few of them having technical issues, that can't really be helped. Others have got some personal matters away from the track. Again, things like that can't be helped, so we'll just have to make do with the 14 drivers we've got here tonight, Jesse.
Yeah, and of course, above and beyond all of that, we hope that everybody is okay and well. And of course, the majority of the issues, by the way, are related to connectivity issues. You won't see Sarah O'Brien or Yvonne here tonight, and they are saying that it is all due to having bad connections today, but now they'll be back next week, which, doesn't that sound like they've caught the Laguna flu?
Is that the flu you get when you want to avoid Laguna? Because if that's
It,
the case, I think I'm coming down with it now for the RCI World Tour Championship.
it might be, but no, it's one of those things where you cannot be helped. You have connection issues. I think Sarah Bryan not being here tonight, they gave it the college try, and were unable to maintain a stable connection on their end. I think they've decided to sit this one out. And of course, everybody gets a drop round in this championship regardless. So as long as this is the only really bad race they have, it won't bother them too much at all. In fact, it'll be completely erased from the memory from everyone else.
Yeah, the only problem I find with taking your drop round relatively early is if you have a bad race after this, it puts so much more pressure on you to perform because you're aware that you don't have your essentially a get out of jail free card. I mean, I know a championship that I was in, it was only 6 rounds, very similar to this. And I think I got to my 4th round before I had a bad race, and it was just sort of like, okay, well, I'm majority of the way through, so this will be my drop round. But then it added so much extra pressure onto me for the next few races because it's like, okay, well, now I can't, make a mistake or I can't get caught up in instance, as we see Charlotte Robinson taking a trip into the gravel there. Mistakes like that once you use your drop round, if you do that in a race, well, personally me, I become frustrated a lot quicker than if I knew I could sort of just let this one go.
Well, you definitely become more aware of it, don't you? Whenever you know that you've used your round, your free race, so to speak, and you definitely become more aware of your driving, and in a lot of ways, like you said, Nate, that actually is to your detriment because you're being super acutely aware of everything that you're doing, and the intensity goes up as well because you know that you don't have an option. If you have another bad round, you're likely going to lose your chance at winning a championship, and nobody wants to know that they're out of it, and especially using it so early in the season. It is a lot of stress. But speaking of stress, 20 minutes here, 5 a.m. qualifying. Track is not optimum yet, just fast. 25 degrees, track and ambient together. And today, I think we all know who's probably going to be on the pole position today. But the question is, who will be second?
Oh, I don't know. Last week threw up a surprise for me. Obviously, there was a new face up there, one that I'm not familiar with, new to Diamond Drive this season, which was indeed Death, as we had a quite a giggle of last race. So yeah, I've got a feeling, you know, familiar faces. Fox will be up there, and Dove. It'll be interesting to see the battle between those three, because they were quite closely matched until a few incidents separated them last week.
Very much so. And of course, in the second class, there's a couple of things that I'm going to be looking at. Can M. Young continue their fantastic run? It was a storybook race number 1 at Snetterton for the driver of the 37 AMG. Could they keep it up today? We're going to have to find out. And like you said, who is going to be the driver up at the front that challenges maybe even Ada Rose, but the rest of the field? Can Sasha Death get back into it? I think they finished 4th at Snetterton, so looking to improve upon that, maybe get on the podium. Nicole Fox and Sarah Dove, of course, the two that did finish on the podium with Rose as well. And we'll see if that continues here. Very exciting. You don't know what you're going to get around here. It's not the track that has the most leeway out there. Usually you go off here, you go off in a big way, in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, this corner here is normally where a lot of mistakes are made. It's a confidence corner. You really have to trust the car underneath you to be able to chuck it in and know that it's going to stick. And obviously here, corkscrew as well. Make sure you spot the braking to get it turned in and just neatly cut all the left and the right part of that. It's very easy to misjudge. Again, big sausage curb on the left-hander of that corner there. Another big sausage curb here on the right. All things that can upset the car and really can ruin your lap or your race. This little sausage curb here, sausage curbs, anti-cut curbs is their official name. Not too bad to unsettle the car on that one because it's low speed, but yeah, you still want to be avoiding them at all costs.
Well, there you have it, the very first lap. Rose with a 1:22.650. Ruby Acosta, who has joined us for race number 2 as advertised, and they come home 1.3 off that pace. Sasha Death in 3rd place right now of the 3 cars that have set. Well, Eris will give us an idea of where everyone is, and it qualified 2.7 down. Sarah Dove also coming through. Now that lap was good enough for 4th in the pro class, a 25.087.
Yeah, I completely forgot, which is terrible of me, that Ruby Acosta was turning up for this race. Obviously, definitely a familiar face at the sharp end of the grid, so definitely could be in for a shout of that 2nd position. But yeah, a surprise to see Dove that far off the pole time. I would like to put it down to a scruffy lap, or maybe just the fact that McLaren maybe not enjoying Laguna as much as the BMW.
Well, I think that's certainly true. Obviously, you don't want to get on curbs. In a McLaren specifically, if you're in this monster that M. Young's in, it doesn't really matter. You can take the curbs all day. But with the elevation change and the gigantic curbs around some of these corners, you're really not a McLaren track, to be completely honest with you, in a lot of respects. But I have seen them be quite fast here in the past in the right hands, and I think Sarah Dove will improve upon that time. I think that was a very safe lap they put in. You don't see a ton of invalidations here by simply going off the track, because if typically speaking, folks, if you've gone off the track here, you may have not invalidated your lap, but you've absolutely ruined it regardless. There's no easy offs around this racetrack. Natalie Lee, the best last name in sim racing, comes across and goes provisional pole. I'm not biased, Nate. A provisional pole in the second class over Eris right now. Im Young third in the second class.
Yeah, it's looking quite competitive between that AM class, silver class, second class. Jesse, we got to mix it up week to week. We've got to think of something different for this week.
I
But
refuse to call Lee and April Carlsbad and Eris too, if I'm honest. I refuse to call them amateur class or AM. I refuse.
well, I'm gonna make you do it next week.
Im Young goes to the top of the second/AM class, depending on how you feel. But I promise you, there's a lot of drivers that are not AMs in that class. Just the two classes for Diamond Drive this season, Pro and what appears to be AM, but we call it first and second class based on speed. And there had to be a cutoff right there in the middle. And some of those drivers, you could argue, could have gone either way, and I will argue that.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like, it's never... I suppose it's more of a compliment to drivers when we sit here and go, oh, well, they're too fast for the class they're in. I got a feeling Young might just be one of those drivers on that sort of, on the threshold of being maybe too quick for the second class, but maybe not competitive enough for the first class. So we'll have to wait and see how the next few races unfold. But yeah, Young showing some serious pace in that Mercedes.
Sure is. Second week in a row, Im Young near the top of the board, and certainly first in their class. April Carlsbad a 10th off.
Yeah, not too much of a gap between the first and second place in the second class. A little bit of a gap back to Lee, who, I mean, I'm not with Jesse on that. I don't believe it's the best last name in sim racing. But again, that's just could be down to a scruffy lap or maybe just final tweaks to the setup before really dialing in that final fast lap.
Rain goes P10, good enough for fourth in that class. Nate, what is the best last name in sim racing?
I mean, I never said there was a best one. I just said I didn't think Lee was it. I don't know. I can't get myself out of this hole.
I don't know.
Help me think of an excuse.
Well, I think that there's a lot of great names out there, and it could be any one of them on any given day. There, did I bail you out enough on that one?
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you.
Your eyes don't deceive you, folks. That is Natalie Lee, the alleged best name in sim racing. I got your back for the Turn 1 team, but that is the 650, not the 720. And that was a very much on purpose wiggle over the top as Natalie Lee celebrates the provisional pole in the class, a 24.447 for the 650. Could the 650 be a secret weapon around this track?
I don't think here. In fact, I'm almost certain, not here, but certain tracks, it is absolutely a secret weapon. It just seems to have such great top end. In fact, better than its cousin, the 720. And I think tracks like Monza or any real track where there's a decent straight, it just seems to perform well. But obviously, being the older generation car, it does have some downfalls that obviously the 720 does take care of with its advancements. So, old car on pole, we'll have to wait and see if that stands to the end.
We certainly will. Sasha Death goes P2, just about a second between them and Anor Rose, a 22.330 for the 56 BMW, the Queen's Design BMW that we're so familiar with. And they have split. The Queen's Design team has Sasha Death as Ruby Acosta P3 for the moment. Sarah Johnson will move up a spot into P10, a 25.045 for the Pineapple 888.
You love that, don't you? You've been waiting on that, haven't you?
Oh, I really have. I love it. It's a chrome pineapple this season.
I feel like that would hurt. I feel like that would be quite solid.
I mean, it looks nice. Sarah Dove, the GTWR 177 to the line, was a 24 last time, and this time it's going to be a 23.475. That's more like it for Sarah Dove, as that puts them into third. And what a lap that was. So yeah, just a couple of warm-up laps. got the what did the British people say? Wind your neck in, and ran a really quick
Well,
lap that time.
that's not. I don't think that's the context of that, Jesse. But as an American, being culturally incorrect, we'll let you off this one time. But what you should do, Jesse, is wind your neck in and stop trying to be cool.
Ador Rose comes across the line and proves again a 21.972, the new mark to beat. Death and Dove were getting a little bit too close. And then all of a sudden, here comes Rose back again, a 21.972.
That's just unreal pace. I mean, I get impressed if I could do a 24 round here or a high 23. And Rose is there going, you know what? I'm not happy with a low 22. I'm going to make it a 21. And it just goes out and does it. It's just not fair. It's just not fair.
Well, it just shows you how much pace some of the drivers have. And Adol Rose is obviously an esports level driver and certainly has that caliber and that experience as well. And we asked them 2 or 3 seasons ago, if you're another driver in the pro class, do you like or hate racing against somebody like Adol Rose? And they're, well, we like it because Rose basically becomes the measuring stick for the rest of us, and we can improve based on that. And certainly that is the case. We have seen that. Speaking of improvement, the next round racing 202 by Nicole Fox is now back within a second of Rose for the pole position, a 22 for the 202.
That is a really good lap. As you see, Acosta getting a little bit sideways there, potentially getting slightly held up by the NSX of Cosmo there, but everyone's on their laps. You've got to sort of leave space and make sure you judge the gaps. You know, everyone's entitled to the racetrack, unfortunately, and if the car ahead of you is slower than you, then you just need to back out of it and reset.
Cosmo Marsh, who had what I think we'll consider a frustrating day at the office 1 week ago.
Suppose you could say that. Cosmo said to us after race didn't really gel with the new changes to the NSX, but I've heard throughout the week a lot of positive things about it. So maybe it's just about adapting to the new feel of the car. We'll have to wait and see what this race brings. But at the moment, Cosmo, yeah, like you said, maybe not enjoying this a great deal.
There were several cars at Centerton that struggled mightily. Cosmo continued. I would give Cosmo Spirit of the Race award if it were up to me. As far as I'm concerned, they kept it going. I know they got points in that race. I think they finished 8th or so 1 week ago, but definitely a frustrating day in that NSX. Looking to make a better day of it here. Look what's happened to this leaderboard. Death, who was second place for so long, back to 4th now. And if you look at the second class leaderboard, Lee, Young, and Carlsbad, your top 3. Eris was on pole there for a little while, down to, was at 5th place in class now, as Cosmo picks up a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, the small changes to the NSX maybe, just getting along well. It's all about adapting and just learning a new car. I think that's why we're seeing some of the times come down. I think the drivers are just getting used to the track now, and the tires are starting to come in. There's a variation of factors which could explain why we're seeing times tumble. But yeah, it's all a bit over the place, isn't it? We've got a couple of the first class drivers a little bit lower than they might be expecting, and then a couple of the second class drivers maybe a little bit higher than they're expecting. It's a bit jumbled, Jesse.
It really is. You got Lee that now has a little bit of space between March. And keep in mind, we're not going to align these categories for the start of the race today. They will start wherever they happen to qualify. So right now, Cosmo would start in between Lee and Young right now. And that would be something that both Lee and Young would have to navigate. They race each other, and do keep in mind as well, yes, they're running for in-class points in a championship, but there's also a overall championship as well. We've ran that for a few seasons now, and it always has an interesting effect down at the end of the season. And of course, the overall championship also has the drop round. Your worst finish does not count.
I'm just looking at this McLaren, Jesse. There's a lot of colors on that car. Like there is a lot happening on that car.
Yeah, okay.
I like the front of it. Like it's almost like eyeliner, like eye makeup there with the purple in amongst the pink, magenta if we want to be pedantic, in amongst the white.
I saw the team name, and I got it. Prismatic Motorsports makes sense. I like that. It's a very original, very nice car. I didn't put that all together until just now.
Do you know my pet peeve? And I know a few other people that have this pet peeve. And this is no offense. I'm not singling anyone out here, but painted diffusers. Jesse, where do you stand on that?
I think it's great if it's certain colors. If it blends into the bodywork, I'm not a fan.
Nah, I'm not a fan of painted diffuser. The
Jake,
rear diffuser.
Jake the Bosmeister Boswell agrees. Says absolutely do not paint the diffuser. I might have to readjust my personal stance on that. Ruby Acosta comes back to P4 and improved on their lap, still 1.3 out. Fox the closest to Rose up front. Then you got Dove, who's 1.1 behind. And Acosta, who did not make round one, said that they'd be back for round two. And, well, they kept their word there. Ruby Acosta is here. Unfortunately, if you are a fan of Queen's Design, that car does not have a livery today. That is our mistake. We tried to get it to work. We ran out of time. A simple technical issue on the back end. But what I can tell you is the Queen's Design team have actually tried to help us, Nate, because Rose's car should have orange mirrors. It doesn't. They appear to be pink. But and I'm told that Ruby Acosta's car should have blue wing mirrors on that car, though I'm not seeing that here. But we're having trouble picking them apart because they're almost identical other than the number. The wing mirrors should help. But today it won't be an issue at all because the 40 will be a dark colored car and Rosa's car will be the only pink one.
Yeah, I think this will make it very easy to tell them apart.
Yeah.
There'll be no confusing these two cars. But yeah, as you mentioned, Jesse, we did ask the Queen's Design team to help us, especially me with my I see one color and like that's it, that's the car, to help us identify the different cars because all I see is a pink BMW and I go, oh yeah, that's Anor Rose, and I'm like, wait, no, that's who's that? Who else drives a pink BMW? So they have colored the mirror caps for us for the next couple of races, so we will be able to identify whose car it is on the track.
We do very much appreciate that from the Queen's Design team. That was a lot of work to go back into paint the mirrors, and then obviously you have to have the livery recertified and all that stuff. So we do appreciate that. Unfortunately, a technical issue kept you from seeing that today, I believe. But the intention is there, and so is the intention over the sausage curb. Charlotte Robertson goes for a ride.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, that sort of faith corner, the commitment corner, where you just have to sort of get it turned in. But yeah, a little bit too early, and you do catch that anti-cut curb, and it is lethal, as we see Robinson doing victory donuts for maybe sticking the jump.
I think Charlotte tried to merge back onto the track with dirty tires and looped it again at the top of the corkscrew there.
Oh, so Jesse, we just got under a minute and a half now, so I got a feeling these last few laps are going to be, well, they will be the final ones for everyone who's still on the track. And then I can't see Rose going any faster, but I'm sure she will be happy to watch this back and prove me wrong if it happens. I'm hoping we see some of the drivers get a little bit closer. And maybe even scare Rose slightly into thinking that her pole position might be under threat. But, oh yeah, we got Nicole Fox here. So Nicole Fox is the last car across the line on a valid lap. So we will have to wait and see where the times fall. Obviously, Nicole is in second place at the moment, so doesn't really have much to gain besides bettering her time to avoid any of her competitors jumping her. But other than that, I haven't really seen much improvement going on, Jesse. The track is still only fast.
And that's a bit of a surprise to me as well. One of the more recent updates, I think it was at 1.81, I think, or maybe it was the one after that. I can't really recall, but it changed the way the track reacts to the atmospheric conditions. It changed humidity and a bunch of different things, and also the way the track reacts and simulates itself up to the point where the session is live on a weekend, which is the format we use for all of our races here. Oh, it's going to be
Oh
an
no!
ender to qualifying for Nicole Fox, and that might have been a big improvement, a pickup for the 202. But we will not see the fruit of that labor as McLaren and curb equals sand trap.
Yeah, that's that anti-cup curb I mentioned at the start of the session. And like you mentioned, Jesse, in the McLaren, you just do not want to go anywhere near them. Just avoid them like the plague. They are just, it's not worth it. You'll lose so much more than you could potentially gain, as Fox has just demonstrated to us.
Well, I can tell you, I have been told by people that drive the McLaren all the time that it's not on or off. It's Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes you can hit the curb in the same spot twice, and it bounces you completely differently. And if you miss it by millimeters, it makes a difference in that car. And that's not so true with some of the other cars here today. Dove comes across the line, no improvement, but there is an improvement for Ruby Acosta, who was the only other car on a lap. That bumps Ruby up onto the podium and changes the lane they will be on in the second row. Well, we've had one race at Snetterton. We've talked about it. Let's take a look at the championship points after one round. They mirror, of course, the finish from 1 week ago. No surprise. Anor Rose, 39 points with the fastest lap, the win, and pole position. Nicole Fox on 29 points. Sarah Dove rounding out your podium with 25. Sasha Death with 21 points. Paula Brady, who is not here today and was in our chat, though, is 18 points in P5. Sarah Johnson on 15. Sophie Erwin, 13 points. Cosmo Marsh on 11. Hamish with 9 points. Yvonne didn't get points a week ago and is not here today. M. Young, I wouldn't say surprise winner from a week ago, but the most impressive driver of the newer drivers that we had with 39 points, also had the pole position, the win, and the fastest lap. Maximum points for that Mercedes. Sarah O'Brien, who's not here this evening due to connection issues, with 29 points. Eris in third place, a strong third, 25 points. Had a good race at Centerton. April Carlsvard, fourth with 21. Natalie Lee with 18, rounding out your top five. McKenna Santos isn't here tonight, but it's not illness or connection issues. McKenna's just 30,000 feet up in the air right now. Couldn't make today's race. Wouldn't let her have her wheel on the plane, as it turns out. 15 points, though. Sean with 13. Charlotte Robertson has 11. And Rain either did not participate or complete enough of the race to get points. Well, Nate, it's pretty easy to pick the favorites for today's race, but I'm not going to ask you that question. I'm going to ask you, can M. Young, after qualifying P2 in the second class, can they win this race today from their starting spot of 8th?
Oh, I like the question. That's a curveball in there, Jesse. Well, yeah, arguably any one of these drivers can win, Jesse. You know, we're all here to win and race and participation medals. But yeah, obviously on a more serious note, the pace that Young showed us last week definitely could very easily, that is a prime sentence structure there. Could very easily win their class from, well, essentially second on their class. They just need to try and wiggle their way past Cosmo Marsh, who definitely won't make it easy for them, and then hunt down Natalie Lee. That's a tongue twister. But yeah, very easily. I will expect a large fight between Young and Lee. And I also wouldn't rule out Eris or April for the win either.
Second follow-up question, are you surprised that Sarah Johnson in the 888 BMW all the way down in 11th place? Is that surprising to you?
I would say yes, based on the pace that we've seen from the other two BMWs on the grid. Obviously, you have to compare, apples to apples, but at the same time, Rose is always going to be on pole. You're never going to challenge that. And Acosta has also shown us some serious pace. I would put Johnson being that far down the grid just to not be unable to get a clean lap. So expect Johnson to be the big mover through this event.
Charlotte Robertson chimed in more to your point, Nate, in our chat here. Charlotte says, I'm very much here for the participation medals. Maybe one day I can fight for the win. You never know, Charlotte. You just don't. One race, you could finish near the back. The next race, you're in the mix for the win. It's just how it goes. GT racing is exciting, and the one thing I always say, if we knew what the outcome of the race was going to be, we wouldn't need to run the race at all. We would just need the podium.
Yeah, but that's why we do it, for the uncertainty.
Exactly. And Snetterton last week, for a racetrack that not a ton of people particularly like, I would say it's about 50-50 between people really liking that track and people abhorring that particular racing venue. It always puts on a show in RCI, and it did a week ago as well. Laguna Seca always as well has its twists and turns. Might we see that today? I reckon we might. Final question for Nate. Fox, Acosta, and Dove, and even back to death, realistically, all very close on the time sheet. Are they going to be mixing up all race long between those drivers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from previous seasons, we've always seen Dove and Fox next to each other. I think the only time they've ever been separated is when one of them has had a drive-through or some sort of penalty. So expect them to be near each other. Obviously, Acosta in the mix as well. And Def really, again, showed their pace against Dove last week. So yeah, I think there's going to be a tidy little four-way battle there. And I wouldn't exclude any of the other drivers maybe just creeping up onto the back of them while they squabble with one another and slow each other down.
Excellently put. We saw as the cars drove away for the formation lap, the sun just peeking over the mountains in the background, nearly 5:30 in the morning here in California. 1 hour, the scheduled race distance, 60 minutes, a required pit stop somewhere in the middle, and the track still 25 degrees C, and it's not optimum, it's just fast, so the track will not have all the grip and the speed that most people would likely be accustomed to having.
Yeah, I think the only benefit that the drivers have on this fast track at the moment is qualifying was fast, so they'll know where the grip is for the race. Obviously, cars now on full tanks of fuel, which will affect the handling characteristics of each of these cars, but it's quite a shock to go from a optimum track on low fuel to a fast track on high fuel. So again, the benefit is they've already been on the fast track, they know where the grip is, they know where their braking points will be for the track in this condition, so it shouldn't catch them off too much other than maybe the heavy fuel.
Race number 2 getting ready to get underway for Ruby Acosta, qualifying P3. It's race 1 for the 40 Queens Design team. They weren't here a week ago, but they are here now and looking to continue to do some damage. Was one of the standouts from a season ago. Their first Diamond Drive season was 3. They were able to convert that season into several podium finishes, and I believe even a second place at least one time. But for race number 2, Anal Rose will lead Fox off into turn number 1, the downhill dogleg bit into the Andretti hairpin. 1 hour, 5:30. It's the Diamond Drive Cup on RCI TV, and the lights are on, the flag is waved, and it's an excellent start, a clean start by Ador Rose as they all fan out too wide to get positioned down into the hairpin. Fox has to go to the inside, Acosta around the outside. Oh my goodness, there's several cars off. Natalie Lee from pole in the second class has been spun.
Yeah, that's devastating. Well, I mean, you asked me if Young could potentially win from second in their class, and obviously with Lee, well, no longer in the picture, it's, well, entirely possible, Jesse.
Wow, what a crazy start. I didn't see what caused that, but considering there were several mid-pack cars involved, you don't really have to be a detective to figure that out. Meanwhile, up front, Nicole Fox's next round racing car continuing in second place. Acosta down to fourth. Sarah Dove got the jump on them. The 177 McLaren now third.
Yeah, it looked like from what we saw just into the first corner, it seemed Acosta went a little bit deep and just left the door open for Sarah Dove, as we might get a replay of the instant here. So what is happening? So, okay, so Eris
Oh,
just late on the brakes. Unfortunately, can't get the car stopped, and unfortunately turns Lee around.
do you think that Eris thought that Lee was going to be gone by the time they got there? I don't have any other explanation for that.
Yeah, it was an odd one. Again, as I mentioned, it might just be full fuel catching the drivers out. Obviously, braking distance is ever so slightly increased, and the car will feel extremely lazy because obviously it doesn't want to change direction, it doesn't want to slow down because of obviously the weight transfer from the full tanks of fuel. So could have been that. Like you said, Jesse, could have just been expecting the car to have made the corner by the time that the cars are all on scene.
Well, I'll tell you what that has done is that has released Cosmo Marsh, who was in the middle of the second class fight there, you'll recall from qualifying. That's released Cosmo into top 5, and Hamish now in P6 as well.
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, obviously people moving up. We see Johnson up from, what was it, 11th up to 8th already as a result of the first lap carnage. And we see, Dove just clipping that curb there. Oh, we've seen Dove pointing the wrong way a few too many times in the last couple of seasons. We are hopefully she'll avoid the curbs and won't do it again this race.
Well, just an update of how it's all gone. It's gone wrong for Sasha Death, who was in the middle of that as well. I believe Death got a piece of that incident that happened in the middle of the pack and is now trying to make their way back through the field. A stop and go 30 for Eris. Is that already stewarding?
No, I think that will be whoa.
Oh, that was not stewarding, but what happened here? This is Eris, who came down pit lane and sped in the pit lane, and let me guess, just didn't get it stopped. Ran back onto the track. Contact with the AMG. Oh no, and that car has retired. Eris no longer in this race.
Yeah, it definitely looked like some sort of mechanical failure. The car just didn't seem to stop. Even on full tanks, you wouldn't expect to see that. So, unfortunately, frustrating issues to happen at the start of the race, but I suppose better to experience them now than spend 55 minutes in the car to then lose it all in the final 5 minutes.
Well, that is a frustrating start for a lot of drivers, for Natalie Lee, of course, and now Im Young. And now Young will certainly have somewhat significant damage because of that, and can ill afford that because April Carlsvard all over the rear wing.
Yeah, I got a feeling the Mercedes is just going to have the grunt out of the corners unless Carlsvard can really send it into one of the corners. And I mean, I'm hoping we see something happen. I mean, the dive bomb queen not with us for this race, but I'm sure spirit will live on amongst the rest of the drivers. But yeah, the grunt of that Mercedes will just pull it out of the corner, and unfortunately, Carlsvard will be probably staring at the rear wing of that Mercedes for a while.
I'm wondering what happened to a couple of cars. I believe Charlotte Robertson was up to third in the second class here and is now down back into fifth in that class. And I didn't catch what happened to the number 11 Lexus. I thought for a second Charlotte must have pitted, but they in fact did not. Cosmo Marsh, who was up to P5, will now go down to P6 because Sasha Death is coming through. They were caught up a little bit in that first turn turmoil. Now getting some of those spots back. So Death back up to P5. And Cosmo probably won't care too much about that, though challenging around the outside. Not a great launch out of the corkscrew was Death. And for a moment there, had a challenge into the next couple of corners. Hamish trying to go the extreme long way around. Nothing but sand out there, Hamish. You're not going to get it done that way.
Well, maybe there was a sandcastle out there, and you know when you're at the beach and you just see a sandcastle, you have to kick it over. That's all Hamish was doing, just making sure there's no sandcastles left.
Are you telling me Hamish is the beach bully?
No, everyone's gone home, of course. Like, Hamish just resetting the beach for everyone to play the next day.
Resetting the beach. Absolutely love it.
Run with it. Go with it.
Well, here is your leader of the race, Anor Rose. Nobody surprised. Good, because they're 4.5 out in front of the field. The Queen's Design BMW going well. You know, Nate, the only thing that could realistically stop this car today is having a massive off into the wall. But that's so... I thought for a second that was too long, and they have just done that. Jake Boswell, with the camera trick, scared the daylights out of me. What I was going to say before I scared myself was the only thing that could stop Anor Rose is the wall, and that's so uncharacteristic of the driver of the 56 to do that. I don't really think we're going to see that.
No, I don't think we will either. I always feel like, I mean, maybe I'm just being a fanboy. I mean, I'm sure I'll get called out on it if I am, but I always feel like Rose always just drives at 90%. I feel like we haven't seen, other than in qualifying, but I feel like in the race, Rose always has a little bit left in the tank to push if anyone starts getting a little bit too close, but never enough to overdrive the car and potentially lose it. Obviously, I'm sure I'll be corrected about this, as I was last week. I said Rose had like thousands of laps on every single track. Apparently last week at Snetterton, Jesse, was their first time at that track.
It's absolutely insane to think about that, isn't it? That how is it possible that Rose had not driven Snetterton? I guess if it's not a track you go to, and I know obviously Anor does a lot of different championships, esports stuff, and I suppose that's a good point. If they're not using the British GT tracks, then it's very possible that they don't really go there, and it's not on Anor's radar, so to speak.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal that you can rock up at a track, go a second quicker than everyone in qualifying, and then extend a massive gap during the race. It's, yeah, astounding, really.
So, resetting the race for everybody, Im Young, who was out in front of the second class, had pitted. They did their mandatory stop. No issues. That has dropped them all the way to last in the race for the time being. The Team Green Mercedes, I didn't say that right, I know. But the 37 who was leading out of pit road, all good on that stop. We suspect they had damage. I don't have the information handy if they would have been repairing damage, but that was significant contact to the door and the side pod of that car. And now Jedi Jake, the Bosmeister Boswell, telling me, in fact, there was additional time spent in the box for the Team Green Mercedes to fix that damage. Hopefully that will keep them ahead of the game, because remember, they were in a tight battle with Carlsvard. Carlsvard now the leader in the second class over Rain. We haven't talked about Rain. Rain very quietly into second place in the 15 AMG now.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even noticed that. Well spotted, Jesse. Mind you, I suppose if anyone who is even slightly more observant than me would have already clocked that. But yeah, it's just about sort of keeping it clean. Obviously, avoiding that first lap melee would have definitely helped a couple of drivers gain positions. Definitely didn't help Natalie Lee, but we see Johnson going very deep there, and luckily the wall is a bit further away than it is in most places, which just gives you enough room to scoot down the escape room there. But a big slide, big slide, and manages to gather it all up. But yeah, unfortunately, at the cost of a place to Carlsvard.
Well, I know that Johnson didn't want to do that. That car's handling's not where it is, but also if you're able to Carlsvard, you might be looking for a clean pair of shorts as well.
I don't think they were that close, were they?
I mean, listen, if I can see it, it's too close. And coming through there, April had a head of steam and saw. There's no way to predict if Johnson wasn't driving the daylights out of that car to keep it in a straight line. There's no telling after hitting the dirt where that's going to go. It could come back across the track, which is actually a little bit more likely, or it could spin in place, or it could spear off to the right, just depending on how you try to save it. But none of that happened because Johnson was able to steer it out of the dirt and save that car. If I was Carlsvard, I would have been I'd have been a little bit more alert than I had previously been after seeing that.
Would have woken you up, would it, Jesse?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is always a fear, isn't it? When you see a car getting loose in front of you and you're like, okay, are you in control? Are you out of control? Where are you going with this? And it's just sort of 9 times out of 10. I don't know if this happens to you, Jesse, but I always think the car ahead of me is in control until they're not, at which point the front of their car is inside my car.
I tell you what happens occasionally, and I'm definitely not poking fun at anybody, but I'll be following a car who I suspect might be a bit faster than me or a bit better than me, and then I follow them right into a sand trap or over a curb that I can't take, and either they spin out or I spin out, and either way, I always sense the same way. Why am I following somebody else? Shouldn't I be focusing on my line? But yeah, it certainly does go both ways. Cosmo holding on to P6 in this race, 6 in class as well. For the moment, has Hamish behind them.
Yeah, just to tag on to your following other cars, do you also find it as well when maybe you've made a mistake and you've dropped behind another car, but you know you and the car you've fallen behind have very similar pace, so you know a battle is imminent. But you always find it when you're trying to race this car that when they make a mistake and you feel like you could capitalize, you then go and make the same mistake. So the gap just never shrinks. It just stays neutralized.
I'd tell you something else too. I can watch somebody I'm racing make 100 little mistakes and I barely gain any time, but I make one little mistake and they've left me by a couple of seconds. That's the way I always feel like it has gone. But it's I'll tell you something else I do as a driver as well. I try to get, I think this is fairly common. You try to make up time once you've lost it, and you take one too many gulps, and all of a sudden you're losing time. Even though you feel like you're going faster, you are actually going quite a bit slower.
Yep, the stopwatch doesn't lie, the delta doesn't lie. Oh, Hamish.
That's a line. That's a line you can use.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I see
37's off.
Oh, no, that's Young. Oh no.
In a big way. What happened here in turn number 2?
I'm gonna say anti-cut curb has done its job and anti-cut. Yep.
Oh, yep. It was fine until it unloaded the rear of that Mercedes and it went off. Okay, so this is what we saw. I thought M made it all the way to the wall. That's not the case. M was just doing the respectful thing, reversing, getting the car pointed the right way off the racetrack so that they could safely rejoin, and they in fact have done just that.
Yeah, but now unfortunately for M, they are stuck in between 2 cars which are a lap ahead of them. So it's trying to run your own race and keep pace, as well as trying not to hold up the cars behind you. And as we can see, Carlsvard is starting to stretch a little bit of a gap to Johnson, which maybe wasn't there a lap or so ago. I'm unaware of the times that each car is doing respectively, but I just got a feeling that Johnson may be being ever so slightly held up by Young in the middle here.
Keep in mind, Johnson was having all sorts of problems a few laps ago in the corkscrew and the exit of the corkscrew. And looks like they've got it back under control. The Pineapple 888 could be thinking about getting back up there. Got to get by Carlsvard, though. So let's see here. Anal Rose leading the race. That's not a surprise. Fox in second place. Dove in third. Also not a surprise. Ruby Acosta, 2.7 seconds behind Dove in fourth place. Actually, it just came down. It's 2.2 seconds now, the gap between Dove and Acosta for third place. The Queen's Design team trying to put 2 of their cars on the podium for the first time this season. And you have April Carlsvard, the GTWR driver, out in front of the second class. Rain is the better part of 9-10 seconds behind this group now. Natalie Lee is 12 seconds behind Rain. That's your top three in that class. Robertson is in the 11 Lexus, 12th overall. You got Young, who pitted, but has since had issues. The most important thing about Young's accident that they most recently had in turn two, they didn't hit anything.
Yeah, so no damage sustained on the car. The only problem is the tyres will be dirty and potentially scrubbed. They might be slightly overheated just because of the slide. So as we've discussed quite frequently, obviously it will take a while for the tyres to enter their operating window again to get them cooled down. But yeah, interesting on turn two there, just to see the different lines that the cars are taking. Obviously there is multiple lines for that corner, but it just seems to be that everybody is taking it differently to the car ahead of them.
Yeah, different cars can take the curbs differently. We talked about the McLaren. You really want to stay away from any raised curbing. You can hit the curbs if they're flat, but you want to stay away from any raised curbing at all. That car will bottom out immediately, and that's no bueno. But in the AMG, for instance, you can pretty much take the curbs however you want. But we saw M run over the big sausage curb, the inner curb, the anti-cut curb, if you will, and it bottomed that car out still as well. And we watched him go through there just a minute ago, and I would say couldn't have been more than, I don't know, a few inches or so further to the left than they were the lap prior, and the car went through there just fine. Leads me to believe that him just got it wrong, just got a little bit too deep into that corner, and it spun him around. That's the tolerances we're working in. We're working in millimeters, not meters.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We did see it had a little hop, but not, again, like you said, enough to unsettle it. But while you were explaining that to all the viewers, Jesse, the 888 has had an issue and has dropped, well, significantly off the back of the Carlswald and Young train there. I forgot who was in it then.
Well, right, you are. They were 9th place. They are now P11, and oh yeah, that's big damage there on the Pineapple 888.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what happened, because I did see a yellow flag and then a white flag, which is obviously for a slow-moving car on the track. So unsure if it was maybe a spin into the wall or contact with another car, but I don't think it would be contact with another car, because Young was starting to extend the gap between them. But here we are, Jesse. We're about to find out exactly what's happened.
Well, here we are after turn 3, the run-up. Oh, what? Excuse me?
So is the anti-cut curb? Oh, and then it was the rejoin. So again, same as we saw with Young, the anti-cut curb there just caught the car and well, significantly went full Charlotte Robertson for this one, launched it into the air.
Goodness. Yeah, you don't normally see cars hit the inside of that curb, but that was a full-on NHRA dragster, and when it landed, obviously there you have very little input that matters, and well, just happened to be pointed to the right. The wheels were anyway, and that's the direction the car went, hard into the wall. You do not see that crash often. What you more likely see is hitting that curb and spinning around backwards, or missing it entirely and ending up in the gravel on corner exit. Hamish! That was a very similar incident in a different corner. Let's look at that again. As Hamish comes through here, and the McLaren just touched it a little bit. Can't do that.
No, again, we've been talking about it all race. I feel like this is going to be the talking point of the rest of the race, Jesse. It's just those anti-cut curbs, the big old sausage curbs, or as we see Hamish going deep there, that's not going to do the tyres any good. Yeah, they're just so easy. Even if you just gently nudge them, it can seriously unsettle the car. Or even just, as we saw with Hamish's incident, it just pushed them out wide. And obviously you're into the gravel, into the kiddie litter, and it's a bad time for you and your car.
And that's exactly what that was, Nate. Was Hamish got as close as they felt possible to that curb, and it was just too close because it rubbed against the side skirting of the car and just shoved them wide, and that's all that was. But scary moment. for a couple of turns for Hamish, the E-Brit team.
Right, I got a bone to pick. I need to ask Nicole Fox about this after the race, but why are... In fact, I don't even know... Nicole, if you watch this back, I'm asking you directly, why are the Next Round Racing logos upside down on the side of the car? Why? Why? Just why? Explain this right now.
Nicole, you're triggering Nate, apparently. I didn't notice that myself personally. Also, it's a nice aesthetic. And if that is the point of them being upside down, is it's a nice aesthetic, then well done.
But they're the right way up on the bonnet. Oh, sorry, on the hood.
A bonnet's a thing you wear on your head, silly.
You could argue so is a hood.
You got...
Yeah,
moving right along. You never thought of it like that. Oh my God. You ever just have a moment in your life, folks at home, where your brain, like the synapses fire and you draw a conclusion that you had never considered before? Nate just did that to me live on the air. Cosmo Marsh in the pit lane. So is Hamish in the 30 as well. It's been a pretty good race for Cosmo. I think we'd all have to agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we mentioned that obviously Cosmo had a rough race last time out, so probably hoping for it to go a bit better this time, and it seems like, touch wood, it is so far. Luckily, Jesse, commentator's curse seems to be a thing of the past.
Well, it certainly was. No spoilers, of course, but was watching the F1 race with a group of I would call them coworkers here at RCI, and well, let's just say that I might have had a hand in the outcome of that race accidentally.
Oh no, you're the reason Leclerc didn't win?
Yeah, isn't it funny how that's my driver and I cursed him? Isn't that funny how that works out? Cosmo out of pit lane, everything's good. Same with Hamish in the rears as well. As Hamish continues to flirt with the extremities of this racetrack, and it makes me nervous. Getting a lot of agina, Hamish, if I'm honest, but the lap times are pretty decent, so who am I to complain?
Yeah, I'm with you, Jesse. It makes me nervous. I see the like sand trail that leads off the side of the car, and I'm like, oh boy, that McLaren's about to go into the wall. It's about to pitch into the wall. And then, no, just drives on, and I don't know what kind of witchcraft that is, but... Oh, speaking of sliding off into the wall, there goes Cosmo!
Oh dear, and a unfortunate place halfway down. We'll take another look at Cosmo Marsh's spin into the corkscrew. As the first real victim of the corkscrew, what happened here exactly? Too much inside curb. Spins them to the right because that is the direction they're steering at the time. Cosmo did get that car right. Don't think they hit anything there, as far as I'm aware.
No, I don't think they did either. Obviously lost a chunk of time there, but no damage. Obviously, tyres just a little bit dirty. Very easy to get back into this race. So head down, Cosmo. You'll get it back.
Rain pitting out of the second place position in the second class. They are exiting now, and in fact have just done, and they are clear. And the reason I point that out is, keep in mind, Rain is in front of Young, who was leading the second class very early into this race, had their own issues, got doored, and then had a spin of their own, did Young, and that has relegated them to where they are. Young does come back through when Johnson has pitted, but Cosmo still in front of Young, and so is Rain, more importantly, for class honors.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out sort of where the order is. I'm trying to work out who's... Obviously, we can see who's pitted thanks to the old handy-dandy graph on the left there. If it's green, the driver is pitted. Or sorry, next to the number board. If it's green, that means they've pitted. If it's the orange color with the little 1 in there, it means they still have a pit stop to make. So we can see who's pitted. Obviously, Rain has pitted. We saw Young pit a little bit earlier. But I'm just wondering where Rain is going to come out in relation. Oh, was that a send or was that a let go? Oh no, that's for position. So yeah, so that was a nice move from Johnson there. I think Robertson didn't fight it too much, but it still looked absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, those excellent camera angles by the Bosmeister there made that look very spicy indeed. But I fear that Charlotte Robertson did indeed let that happen. But Johnson probably wasn't taking no for an answer either way.
Yeah, I'm coming through. We can either do this the easy way or the hard way. And Robinson very sensibly chose the easy way.
Sarah Johnson will. Sarah Johnson said, "Well, I will take you too wide in this corner, make it awkward, or." But a pass made there. The two cars here pictured still yet to pit. The mid pack has, the front running drivers have not, and that's pretty much what I expect. All but the leader in the second class, April Carlsvard, has come down pit lane. And of course, the top 5 in pro still yet to pit. Adel Rose leading this race, but by a ridiculous margin for 28 minutes of racing. Not even 28 minutes of racing, 21 plus seconds back to next round racing's Nicole Fox.
It's just too much. that's all I've got to say. It's Nicole Fox could probably feel like she's leading this because there's just no one ahead of her. So I suppose you could like pseudo trick yourself into saying that you're actually leading the race and then just accuse of a weird bug when it says you finished second. But yeah, I suppose Dove though keeping Fox fairly honest, making sure that Fox can't really relax. Just looming in the mirrors there. Acosta off to the tune of about 12 seconds. So Dove not really got any threat from behind, but absolutely ready to pounce if Fox slips up.
Well, we have had a few penalties thus far, but you haven't seen them pop up on the screen because the drivers at fault are no longer here. Will Stevenson handing out the slips of papers today. 15-second penalty for car 828 for taking out the 19 with position returned. Walk us through this, Nate.
So yeah, this is the lap on instant. Again, we're not really sure what happened. It just seems like Eris just is a little bit late on the brakes and was maybe trying to slot it down through the inside there. But I guess on the full tanks fuel, the car just wouldn't steer, essentially locked the front axle, trying to avoid Lee, and yeah, unfortunately just tagged the rear end there.
There's also a warning for car 19 for not holding brakes after the incident and causing avoidable contact with the 37. So we didn't see the contact between Young and the McLaren, by the way. Ooh, very tricky pit exit here. Almost catches the 19 out, but gets it going. We saw that happen earlier to a more dramatic effect. A warning for car 828 for crossing pit exit line in an unsafe manner, and a 5-second penalty for avoidable contact with the 37. And here's both of those in one replay.
Yeah, so it's just this, as you mentioned, it's a very tricky pit exit, and the problem you've got there is once you touch the gravel, the car just slides. So it's very difficult to then pull it back into pit road, and you do just sort of slide onto the racetrack. It's the most awful feeling you can have, especially when you know there are cars in the middle of the corner as you're sliding into it. And yet, very unfortunate. I suppose Young would have been completely unsighted of the McLaren until it appeared, well, in the side pod of that Mercedes.
You're not expecting it. You're expecting them to come down pit road and exit where the exit is. It does happen quite frequently, actually, because it is so difficult. It's a downhill, off-camber, single car wide pit exit. It's one of the more frustrating things. A couple of years ago, I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Colton Herta, but I don't remember who exactly it was. There was an Indy car in the race that did that. They locked up on pit out, trying to, keep up pace, and just slid right into the Andretti hairpin. And it was a heart in your throat kind of moment, certainly. And we saw that here today live as well. Second place pitting, Fox in the pit lane. And Steven in chat, by the way, Nate has a tip for you. We were talking about the next round racing car, and while the logos were upside down, Steven says that it's effective marketing. Makes you talk about it.
Yeah, I was about to say, it makes you talk about it. Effective marketing. Again, that's the just jumping onto that, we're going to tail onto that for a moment, Jesse, while there's a little bit of calm on the track. Everybody talks about how horrible the front of the new BMW M4 looks, but the problem is everybody is talking about it. So people are talking about BMWs, and then you get curious and you go, oh, does it look that bad? So you go and have a look at it. And if you're one of the people who have this unlimited resource of money, you go, oh, it doesn't look that bad, actually. I'll go and buy one. So by saying how bad it is, you've forced someone to go and buy one. So just stop talking about the ugly snoot nose on the BMW.
This race not specifically brought to you by BMW, but it is in the race. So there you have it. And I actually really like the Queen's Design BMW. The sideways kidney bean, the snoot, I think is what you called it. I think we'd call it a snout here, but it's harkening back to a more classic BMW look. I get it, but it is a lot of nostril, to be completely fair. But one concession I will make, specifically in Queen's Design's favor, pink with a white snoot or snout looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
I like the way
colour
that
combination
looks.
does go. And to be quite honest, I quite like that deep blue. Is it a deep blue or like a deep purple on Sarah Johnson's car for the snoot part? I quite like that. Maybe not the like the chrome like yellow, but I quite like that. But yeah, I think you can make it look very good with some interesting color combinations. As you've pointed out, Jesse, and as I've agreed, the pink and white of the Queen's Design BMW looks absolutely fantastic. But there are also some really terrible color schemes for that car.
I don't know how Jake does this, but he's found two BMWs with two vastly different color schemes side by side, basically for compare and contrast. I when I first saw the unveiling of that car, I was like, that might be the ugliest BMW in in the past 15, 20 years. It is just that bad. But if I'm honest, the more I've looked at it and the more I've become more uh, familiar with that car, I actually think it's actually pretty nice now. I don't
Yeah,
mind it at all.
I'd have to agree with you. Again, it launched, and me and a couple of friends were like, "What is that? Why does that look so awful?" But yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any on the roads out by you, Jesse, but there's a couple that shoot around the roads here, and you see it sort of in the flesh, and it really doesn't look too bad. Don't get me wrong, it still looks a bit silly. Still looks. Oh, Cosmo Marsh is off just to tail end that there, but well held to not put it
How
into the
did
wall.
that happen?
I think just a little bit too early on the
Ran out of
power,
room.
washed wide. Yeah, look.
Yeah, you're trying to get on the power out of the hairpin there, and when you're wide, you have to make that more of a cute turn, and you can't round it off like you would like to. And I think Cosmo just ran out of space trying to get it. Oh, another save!
Cosmo just giving us so much to talk about away from the looks of the
Oh, we're not
BMW.
done. Oh, that there's something going on with the Cosmo Project NSX because that car now looks vastly different with how it's driving. It looks kind of like it did at Snetterton, where
Oh
it
my
just
goodness.
looks all out of sorts.
Yeah, I got a feeling it's dirty tires, overheated tires, just not being able to bring them back into their operating window. Maybe carrying a little bit too much speed. Whoa, Cosmo doing an amazing job to hold on to that. I would have dropped it long ago. Oh, too soon?
Well, the commentators curse alive and well, as that's exactly what's happened here, as we saw Cosmo exit the hairpin. And remember earlier, folks, when I said you're never quite sure what kind of crash you're going to get? Well, this is the most common of the two. Oh my goodness!
Oh,
Makes
what a
it
shame.
all the way to the inside concrete wall. Significant damage on the number 2 Cosmo Project NSX. Marsh is going to pit that car.
Oh, what a shame. Especially to avoid the initial stack of tire barriers, you probably feel like you were safe to then unfortunately catch the concrete barrier just behind them. And yeah, unfortunately, that was a lot of damage for what didn't look like a significant impact.
What a significant turn to this race. We were talking about how well Cosmo was doing, and now all that progress has been reset. Speaking of reset, we know that Fox has pitted out of P2 in the top class. Dove now in that position, Acosta in third, and Death fourth. All of those drivers, including the leader Rose, have yet to pit. Johnson and Charlotte Robertson haven't pitted either. The rest of the field certainly have. And if I'm not mistaken, Cosmo Marsh will not be repairing that car. They have retired the number 2 NSX.
Oh, what a shame. That is unfortunate. But again, we mentioned obviously you do get a drop round. It's unfortunate to need to use it this early, but hopefully Cosmo can come back to the next event even stronger and put on a good performance for us.
Well, it was going so well right up until the point where it wasn't.
That's normally how that goes, Jesse. It normally goes well until it doesn't.
I was channeling my inner Murray Walker for that one.
I challenge you to the next event to throw in some Murrayisms. I bet you could nail that.
I ask it, you shall receive, my friend.
I look forward to it. Next event, 1.5 hours of Bathurst, Jesse.
1.5 hours of Murray.
Oh, here we go. I said a couple, not the whole event.
Oh, it's Sarah Dove.
Oh God! Right, that's it. Next week's cancelled.
Let's see if Dove is able to make pit out. We've seen a couple of drivers struggle with this today, and Dove is going to navigate this. It's going to be side by side here. This is for what we suspect to be second place. The heat and the tires could be all that they need. A little bit of contact, maybe very close racing. You're still side by side. How are the cold tires going to work around the outside? Do the ones on the inside have grip? Sarah Dove is just going to be able to just barely hold on to that position for the moment, as these two getting very close and personal. Dove and Fox racing for what could be second place, and it looks like Dove and the 177, the GTWR, has just about held it. A little bit wide there, but no harm, no foul. An excellent pit sequence for the 177.
Oh, that was so close. I really had visions of those two coming together. We've seen them this close in the past, and only one time have we seen them make contact. And I had visions of it happening again, but these two raced so close. I don't even think you could have put a piece of paper between the two cars then. That was incredibly close, but they were respectful. They did just about give each other enough room, and now the hunt is on. The Fox chases the Dove.
Do you want me to draw attention to that, or you just want me to move on?
You do what you want.
I'd set it up. That was brilliant. Well done. Nice alliteration. Nice use of imagery there as well. It's like I'm at a poetry night. What am I saying? That was excellent. But as it turns out, the Fox chases the Dove.
The Fox indeed chases the Dove. So we'll have to see what happens. I got a feeling. I have a feeling. I'm going to keep it to myself actually, because commentator's curse does not seem to be over. Cosmo, if you watch this back, I'm so sorry. So yeah, Jesse, there are two cars on the track. They're both McLarens, and they're racing one another, and that's what's it's happening. Yeah.
Tell you something else is happening. The stewards aren't inundated with work, but they do have a few things they have pushed through. A 5-second penalty for car 11 for avoidable contact on the number 40. That through T9. So let's see. This is Charlotte, and I don't see the contact yet. I don't see where this would have been. Oh, a slide. Oh, yes.
That was big contact.
Wait. Now hold on a minute. Shouldn't that have been reversed?
I mean, Charlotte lost it. The back end got a bit squirrely, but I can't really see how you could put any driver at fault for this one.
I think they've accidentally done this backwards, because that was the 40 getting into the 11. The 11's having an accident. They're doing what they need to do. The only thing I could say about the 11 is not locking it down, but that I'm going to need some clarification on that from the stewarding department, because I feel like that penalty should have been on the 40, not the 11.
I would argue that no penalty would be needed. As you said, the 11 was having an accident. Like,
Right.
they were doing what they
No,
could to
yeah,
keep the
I
car.
agree with that as well. But they definitely ruled in favor of a penalty, and I just think they've reversed the numbers, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you're good friends with the stewarding team. You should give them a buzz, ask them what they're doing.
All right, I'm being told that's not backwards. I'm being told that that is the penalty. 5 seconds for 11 for avoidable contact.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess that's why me and you, Jesse, are not stewards, because we both have differing
There's something
opinions.
we're missing, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
obviously a key piece of information that we haven't got that they do, that they've ruled it in that favor. But who are we to judge but mere mortals, Jesse?
Well, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, so you know, I'm willing to go with it.
In the stewards we trust.
Hamish in the 30 car, the E-Team Brit. I might have called them E-Brit Team a few times, but that's just because of my brain works. I do apologize for the E-Team Brit Team, but going decently well for Hamish today. Has had several fights, and including one coming from behind them, as all of the second-class cars have pitted, and that has brought Young to P3. Not quite where M. Young wanted to be, especially after finding themselves leading at the end of lap 1, but, well, you never know. You get by Hamish here, who's the next driver they'll have to deal with. Maybe you go catch Rain, who's up in front of you.
Yeah, it's sort of. Are you quicker than the car ahead of you? Or are they holding you up, or is this just the pace? I mean, there's often been times where I've been stuck behind, or felt I've been stuck behind cars, and I'm like, if you let me go, I can go and get after the car up the road. Just let me through, and I will go and chase after this car. But then I won't get past them because I'm not actually quicker than them. And if they make a mistake and I do get past them, they seem to just climb all over the back of me again. So it's, I definitely think pace can be hidden, but also, oh, that looks close. Nope, it's just corkscrew. I thought we were about to see another accident there, Jesse.
Very close racing, and, well, it's not a very wide track, is it? If there's going to be accidents, it might be at a track like this. It's fairly tight confines. There's no grip offline, so it's not often that you see things like Dove and Fox where they were side by side and it was squeaky clean. Might we see a pass here, potentially around the outside, the inside covered off, and nothing doing, backing off down into turn 1? Probably the smart decision.
Yeah, Hamish actually placed the car very well there, just far enough to the right that Young couldn't go around the right and take the outside for turn 2, but also just in the middle of the track enough that Young didn't really have anywhere else to try but the right side of the car. So yeah, that's well played. Oh, no! Hamish, hold it! Oh, no! Hamish has been flirting with disaster for the whole race, and it has finally come back to bite them.
Oh no, it's such a lazy late exit spin too. And it takes them deep into the sand. And they get the car going. That will nullify that fight. That'll let Young through. What do you reckon? Mirror driving there, or just a consequence of the car there?
I think it might have been just pushing. Maybe Hamish was aware that Young may be faster. Again, unfortunately, I don't have the lap times that the cars were doing. But obviously, if you're trying to pick your own pace up when you're already driving at 100%, that's when accidents start to occur because you start overdriving the car. So potentially a case of overdriving the car, maybe just a small, as you mentioned, driving in the mirrors, a small lapse of concentration. Yeah, it could have been anything, but unfortunately, whatever it was, it's cost them dearly.
Certainly has. Well, for Hamish, doesn't get any easier. Sarah Johnson in the 888 right behind them now. So from one battle to another for the driver of the 30.
Who is this? Is this for position? This is for position. Okay, let's see. Oh, Hamish a little bit wide there. Is Johnson going to try the inside? No, not quite, because that door will always close on you. But let's see. Does Hamish avoid the curb again? Yep. Johnson seems to slide quite wide there. Look at the gap Hamish has pulled just in that one corner alone. So Not sure. Oh, so Johnson still hasn't pitted, but don't know if that would really make a difference, because the amount of times I sit here, Jesse, and I ask the drivers if they take tyres, they always tell me no because it's not worth it. But I don't know. Is Sarah Johnson one of the people that will take tyres? Who knows?
Well, that is a good question. There's certainly a couple of cars out there that I reckon could have been thrown into that conversation as well. Of could you take tires? Should you take tires? Certainly, the way that they've been used today, you could argue that. Remember, this race started at 25 degrees C with the track and ambient being matched. It was a fast track, but not an optimum track. It's been optimum for quite some time. The grip has come in, but still very early morning here. And, well, it may say it's optimum, but you and I both know track grip here being optimum is not the same as being in Barcelona with optimum grip.
Well, of course it's not, Jesse, because we're here in California. That was such a silly comparison to make.
Oh dear. Sarah Johnson went for it, took a look, nothing there, falls back into line for the time being.
Yeah, Johnson looks like she gets close, but then I'm not sure. Hamish just seems to have better drive, but I don't know. Like now, Johnson seems very, very close, but then somewhere around the lap, Hamish just seems to pull enough of a gap that sort of neutralizes any threat. Maybe it's through this section, because once you're sort of here, there's not really any overtaking opportunities. As we see, oh, Fox has fallen behind Dove. Oh no, Dove was ahead. Dove was ahead already. But the gap has expanded, and now Sasha Def is on the back of Fox.
Final 12 minutes of the race. We started with 14 down to 12. Anal Rose has led every single lap. They have 10.5 minutes left to pit. So does Ruby Acosta, who has matriculated to second place. Sasha Deth, the same story, back in P5. Sarah Johnson in the 888 Pineapple team has pitted from P10. Robertson has yet to pit as well, has that 5-second penalty, which I had a clarification on. They gave Robertson the 5-second penalty for spinning, and not for spinning so much, but for the spin leading to contact with another car, and that's what it was from. The way the stewarding works is, if you spin on track like that, and somebody can't avoid you, then that is avoidable contact, I suppose. By the way, I did notice something else. I noticed that Fox was being reviewed, because I saw Fox in Dove's car, and they've given a 15-second penalty to Fox, and that's going to be 15 seconds for the 202 for taking out the 177 with position returned. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, let's see. As I mentioned, we've seen these two close in the past. They normally battle with, oh dear, that's
my goodness.
That
As
is a
Ryan
huge
Gill would say, that's a pretty slam dunk.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's a strange one. I'm not sure if the cars are just getting a bit weird because of the low fuel, or the fuel coming down, or old tires, but it just almost seemed like the brakes were disconnected on Nicole Fox's car then, and she just sort of plowed into the back of poor old unaware Sarah Dove. I imagine there'll be some minor damage on the back of that car, but unfortunately the McLaren is so aero sensitive, it will probably feel a little bit nervous on the rear end of that car.
Steven in chat mentioned that really a fan of Johnson's eyeliner. I'm assuming they're talking about the race car.
Why not both?
I mean, I guess could be.
You know what, Johnson? If you watch this back, your Ryan Island looks great today.
no, I do like it. Yeah, I didn't notice it until Steven said something, but yeah, it's got some nice eyeliner that goes down the side of the car.
Yeah, that looks good too. It all looks good.
Well, well, well. Final 10 minutes. 3 cars left to pit. Fox taken out of the fight with Dove. Unknown if that was over anyway. It's 2.8 seconds right now, but Fox will give up a few more spots. That should promote Sasha Death up into P4 at minimum. It might be a podium spot for Death, depending on where Ruby Acosta comes out of the pit lane.
Yeah, it's all to play for. It's really not said and done. We got, well, just under 9 minutes left. Obviously, Fox, unfortunately, now has the 15-second penalty to contend with, which is going to be extremely frustrating. But, you know, these we have live shooting for a reason, and it's there to help all the drivers. Unfortunately, that sometimes it goes in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. But, yeah, just trying to work out. So, how far back is Carlsbad from 202? Oh, okay, so almost a lap down. So I'd probably say the 15-second penalty will secure Fox fourth no matter what happens. Just depends if she could get onto the back of Sarah Dove and maybe make a challenge for the place. Unfortunately, it will be for naught because of the time penalty there.
Just trying to figure out what the game is for Anor Rose. I'm trying to run the math. Is Rose going to come in at the last possible second here, or will they leave themselves a lap buffer? I think at this point, obviously, they're going to try and stay out as long as they can, but what does that actually mean? Are they going to stay out as long as possible? Because if it was me seeing the cars in front of Anor Rose, I'd come in right now, and that's why I am a crew chief. Queen's Design comes in. What Anor saw there wasn't the time running out in the hourglass. It was the 3 or 4 cars in front of them that they would have caught in the next several laps. And this will, hopefully speaking, find them behind the 888 somewhere in clean air. What that does do is move Ruby Acosta into the driver's seat. What will Acosta do? Pit this time by or stay out? Don't know.
Yeah, well, they've 5 minutes left to pit, so you could still get what, 1 or 2 more laps in. Obviously, Rose has now served their mandatory stop, so only 2 drivers left. I have a feeling that tonight's going to be a good night, but that Acosta will
Did
pit.
you really just do that? Did you do that live on there? Really?
Come on, it had to be done.
You quoted a Black Eyed Peas song on this broadcast.
No, I don't know what you're on about.
Moving right along, indeed.
But as I was saying, and as I was trying to say before it happened, I'd feel Acosta will pit this lap, and sure enough, they have. I'm not sure if Sasha will. We'll have to wait and see if they come down pit road. But I know the Queen's Design cars tend to pit at around the same time. So once Rose was in, it wasn't really a surprise that Acosta was in. But where are we? So, okay, so now the real interesting question is, will Acosta actually be close enough to Fox at the end of the race to snatch away the podium position? Jesse, you're the man who runs all the math. Can you work it out for us?
I can't and talk at the same time, but something I will point out, Charlotte, by the way, served their 5-second penalty in pit lane. Now, they had already done their pit stop? I don't recall, but I believe they had. At least in my head, I had it checked off that they had done, which means that Robertson has been back down the pit lane, so they will not get a post-race time penalty. Wherever they finish is wherever they finish. Fox will, however, get a 15-second penalty for, we'll call it spinning the 177. I don't think the Sarah Dove car fully went around, but the sort of intent was there, I suppose. The accidental intent, of course.
Yeah, it's a half spin, but it's still would have caused damage, still would have cost time. It's still one of those annoying and frustrating incidents for both drivers, because obviously no driver goes into any race going, "Do you know what? I'm going to cause as much carnage as I can. I'm going to crash into everyone." I mean, I could maybe think of one driver, but um, outside of them, I don't know who else it would be. So yeah, it's frustrating when you hit another car because you just feel like an idiot. I mean, for me personally, that is, it's just frustrating because I expect better of myself. I'm sure a lot of the drivers here will expect better of themselves as well. So to rear end another car is just annoying for you, and then obviously being the
It
car,
really is, isn't it?
yeah, and then to be the car that's rear ended, you're just like, what the hell is this person doing? Like, why? There's a corner here. You have to stop for it. Why are you still plowing into me at like 100 kilometers an hour faster than me?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
nobody wants to crash into or have an accident. It really is as inconvenient for you as it is for anyone else, and just mistimed move there. I am corrected by Steven, who says that no, Charlotte had not pitted yet, and that was their mandatory stop that they had completed. Only one car has yet to do that. That's Sasha Death in P4. That car has to complete the stop in the next minute and a half, and in
here we
fact,
go.
as if on cue, the 247 in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think. Oh, that's gonna
Ooh.
need some extra time in the pits. But
I'm being honest with you. So late in the race, I just unchecked that box. I'd be like,
just
"Nah, I'm good."
yeah, turn it off. Just slap the duct tape on it, boys. I don't need a new nose cone. But,
It. I would tell my crew chief. I brushed it a little. It's fine.
yeah, like light touch, minor scuffs. They'll buff out.
Very close stuff. Adel Rose reassumes the lead of the race, of course, and
So,
goes through 2 laps to go. I think, yeah, 2 laps to go this time by.
so we just saw Sasha Death in the pits, and obviously we've got Rose here. So Rose has lapped up to 5th place in this race.
If you're waiting for a reaction from me, you're not going to get it. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, yeah, you must be a little bit surprised. Come on now.
Not really.
Come on now.
It's Adel Rose. The only thing that Adel could do that would surprise me is not win.
Uh-oh. You've done it now.
No, no. I told you earlier. I'm off of it now. I only jinx F1 now. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So, can you jinx it that Mercedes suddenly make a good car? Reliable? It is reliable, it's just not fast. Can you jinx that?
I can try. Would you like me to try?
Yeah, go on.
Lewis Hamilton will not finish in the top 5 this season. There, I got you. See,
That's
now
fine.
he will.
But George
He will
Russell will do the thing.
Oh, I can do one better if you like. Lewis Hamilton will not win the F1 Drivers' Championship this year. See?
Oh, that's a given.
See what? No, it's reverse psychology. Now he will do just that. Im Young has caught up to the back of Rain. I felt like I talked about this about 30 minutes ago, that this could be on, and here we go. 1 lap to get it done between Rain and Young for second place in the second class. April Carlsvard has led almost the entire day and has done a fantastic job scampering away from the rest of their class. It is down between Rain and Young now for second place.
Yeah, so I think after Young's earlier incidents, I think a P2 in class would be quite a result for them. But I mean, they've got to get it done this lap. That's all the time that's left. But I mean, even a P3, again, after the spin and the other instance, it will be a solid result. I don't think anyone could disagree with that.
No, but you know what's even better than a consolation third? A resurgent second place. Anna Rose will come down the hill one last time. It's been a dominant day. Qualifying, it's been a dominant season and a third, I should say. The current most dominant driver in RCI competition is about to cross the line again for an impressive 8th win in a row. Adel Rose wins it. Round 2 here at Laguna Seca. And that is the sound of nobody being surprised.
Yeah, it's almost anticlimactic, isn't it? It's sort of like we know Rose is going to win, but it's what we should start doing is guessing by how many seconds is Rose going to win.
Ooh, we'll do
That would-
that next week.
that's the next one to do. But
I like your headset.
the one that I'm interested in at the moment, Jesse, is how far behind Acosta is to Fox. So if it's any less than 15 seconds, then obviously what it is, it's 9. Is that 9.5? Yeah, so 9.5 seconds back. Obviously not going to drop 6 seconds in the last few corners. So it would seem that even though Fox will finish third on the track, Acosta will inherit that due to the penalty.
Sarah Dove comes across the line, will finish second place, 54 seconds off the lead, mind you. Fox will come home third, will not get to keep it. Ruby Acosta, in their return to the Diamond Drive Series, will take home third place. April Carlsvard does win out in the second class over Rain. Another good race by Young in third place, but it will be a story of what might have been for the driver of the 37. Excellent drive by Rain. Stayed out of the dramas today and gets rewarded with a podium. Of course, Fox will finish in fourth place. Death inside the top 5. Hamish in ninth place. Lee all the way back in 10th place. Never recovered from that lap 1, turn 1 accident they were involved in. Johnson, P11. Robertson, M12. Marsh, Eris, and O'Brien did not finish this race today. O'Brien actually didn't enter the race today. In fact, was having connectivity issues. But look at this. Teammates enjoying a nice cool down lap together.
Yeah, I do like seeing the cars sort of their formation flying, especially in the team liveries and the team colors. It does look smart. So I hope they get plenty of nice pictures together.
Well, race number 2 in the books, Nate. I got to tell you, it was a spirited race. It was pretty much what we expected by the book. A lot of cars going off on their own accord and only a handful of incidents between cars. But a crazy start to this race. A couple of major contacts in the Andretti hairpin changed the face of this race in the second class.
Yeah, definitely. Well, wasn't quite the winner that we expected, but a deserved winner nonetheless in the second class. Obviously, we all expected the first class winner. I don't think anyone is even remotely surprised that Anal Rose has blitzed the field once again. But well done to Carlswald for the first place in the second class, and Rain for second, and Young for the final podium spot.
Well, speaking of our winners today, let's talk to Anal Rose, who dominated yet another race in the pro class. That is 8 in a row, Anal Rose. Could you end up being the most dominant driver in RCI history by the end of the season?
I mean, why not? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So yeah, I'm gonna aim for that, definitely.
Well, it looked easy out there today, was it?
When you know the conditions, it's a practice for it, I can say, because mostly, especially with this car, in these conditions, it was mostly about being precise, to not push the tires over the edge, to keep them alive for the entire hour. I think I did that pretty well because the car didn't feel like it was going away, at least not too much. So yeah.
Well, congratulations again. By the way, we thank you for the thoughtfulness to color your wing mirrors so that we
Yes.
can pick you out. We didn't pick that up this week, but we will in the future. That's so very nice of you and your team.
I live to please. What can I say?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Anal Rose, 8 races in a row for Queen's Design now.
Just before going, I want to say, tomorrow is Transgender Day of Visibility, and because of the nature of the series, I think it's kind of appropriate that I mention that. Especially this year with the current events, I think we're way past the point of needing visibility. What we need right now is rather actions, protection, even I'd call it. For example, in the United States, where Ruby is living, 38 states are pushing anti-LGBTQA plus bills. So 34 of them are specifically targeting trans people. Ruby lives in California right now. Her state doesn't have one of those bills lined up right now, but how long until that lasts? Same, I'm kinda in the same situation. I live in France. Right now, I'm kinda safe, but there has been a very visible rise of fascism in my country, so I can't take that for granted at all. I know it. I think every trans person here knows it too. Uh, it, and most people like they think, especially because of the stats we have. Some stats say we're like 1% of the population at most, but even then, that's pretty big. And most people don't realize that they usually know at least one trans person, maybe a sibling of a friend, a distant family member, or whatever. And well, if you're watching this series, that's about half the grid. So maybe picture this right now: have this grid gone because our existence was made illegal. And yeah, I wanted to point that out because of Transgender Day of Visibility tomorrow. So yeah. And if I might add, maybe if you're in the US and you're trans, or at least a trans supporter, because you've been threatened as well if you support trans people, maybe right now would be a good time to looking into arming yourself for self-defense. As sad as it is to say, I think it's maybe something to consider. Thank you for listening, I guess.
Thank you for that, Rose. April Carlsvard, you won today's race. Looked like a lottery out front. You had Lee and then Young, and then all that was left was you.
Yeah, just before we get into that, I wanted to say, well said, Anor, and well done today as well. Really proud of you for, I guess, mostly standing up for what you believe in. But yeah, today was fun, and like so many really exciting and fun races, today started with a terrible qualifying. I knew I had sixth in the bag from qualifying. I just couldn't put the lap together in qualifying. But that usually means for a fun race, and you know what, it was. So thank you everyone I got to share that with.
What was going through your mind, April? Because you were in the thick of it from the start, and then you probably saw what happened to Lee, and then also Young had issues as well, and you ended up inheriting a nice lead there after a while.
I did, yeah. I suppose I'm lucky that I got it just handed to me. It would have been more fun to fight for a lot of it, especially watching Hamish and Marsh. That looked like, it was growing up to be really exciting when it all just kind of fell off the road. So, unlucky there. But yeah, I I do feel lucky for today.
Well, you also got yourself back in the championship conversation. You finished fourth at Snetterton. You win today. And I'm going to be completely honest, it completely changed the championship outlook for you. And now you're right back in the thick of it.
That's quite exciting. I hadn't thought of that. We'll see if I can hold on to it. I don't have much time to practice for these. I was lucky this time. This is the next World Tour track, so I've done a lot of laps here in the Bentley. So we'll see if I can keep it going when I don't have that on my side.
Excellent job. April Carlsvard first in the second class today.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's go down the first class grid. We'll talk to Sarah Dove. Dove, what a race that was.
Yeah, it was quite a tough one, and I only with like 9 minutes to go remembered that I have a fan that I can turn on to cool me down. So yeah, I wondered why I was so stressed.
Well, you were in the fight all day, whether you were fighting off shadows of cars that were on different pit strategies or you were actually locked in combat with cars. You were in it, and you ended up being second place, the best of the rest.
Yeah, it was a great race with Ruby and Nicole, and I think I just got it right with the pit stop, and I don't know if you saw on the broadcast, but I was like so close to not being able to make the move, but I managed it.
We definitely saw that. Congratulations, Sarah Dove, a brilliant second place.
Thank you.
And we'll go down to third as well. Ruby Acosta, your first race in season 4. Couldn't make the first one. You're back here, and you're immediately back on the podium.
Yeah, it was a really tough race, actually. I got caught up in an incident coming out the corkscrew, and I had nowhere to go, and I had some really bad damage. For the rest of the race, my car wouldn't turn in, but I just kept on pushing, and I knew something would go my way. I felt like it had to after all that bad luck, the first few laps, and then that incident. And yeah, I just kept myself in it, and I had to just tell myself to just stay calm and just to be hopeful. And yeah, I'm here again today. I didn't expect to be on the podium today. Actually, the pro class is really tough this season, and there's a lot of great drivers, including Sarah and Nicole and Sasha. So, and Honor too, but she's way off in the distance for me. So, yeah, yeah, thank you to Honor, and I'm really proud of her doing that speech, and she was working on it for a while, and I'm really proud of her.
Well, we're proud of you as well. What a great day, and another podium to add to your belt as well. Ruby Acosta, third place. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be just about it from us today. A brilliant day of racing. Some very, very close racing there at the end between a couple of podium contenders in both of the classes. Just want to take this time to thank our partners, racedepartment.com, your source of sim racing news and information, AK Informatica for providing our server solutions, Driver 61. You can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code, link in the description of this video. And driver coaching can make you a better racing driver. Fanatec.com, our affiliate link in the description as well. Doesn't cost you a penny when you purchase quality sim racing hardware from Fanatec. And it may help us with things like server costs when you use our affiliate link. And if you're tired of the pub racing scene, we have a solution for you. Simracing.gp. Sign up on simracing.gp. Join a community. Getting started is free. And we will, of course, continue to see you this week. The continuation of the Friday Championship in just 2 days' time. Myself and Les on that call with Stewie behind the cameras. Night Owl off Night Owl's not off this weekend. What am I saying? Night Owl's back this weekend with myself, Ted Edwards, and Stewie again. The Monday Challenge Cup. Now, folks, you're not going to want to miss that. The Monday Challenge Cup are 3 of the brand new cars. It's all of them except the BMW, which is its own championship. But the other 3 cars, the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Lamborghini, all on the same track. 3 different classes of racing on Monday. Like, subscribe, do all the things. You're not going to want to miss that. That brought to you, well, race number 1, it's going to be myself, John Dalton, and Ryan Mawson. But for the rest of the season, it'll be Ryan Gill, John Dalton, and Ryan Mawson. And, of course, we'll be right back here with you on Wednesday for Diamond Drive round number 3. Nate, final thoughts?
Well, on this race, next race, where are we at? This race, thoughts, absolutely epic to see Fox and Dove going side by side for those couple of corners. That was really close racing. I enjoyed that. Unfortunate to see a couple of competitors caught out by incidents or by their own misfortune. Overall, though, Jesse, I think we've got a nice grid here. There was plenty of action all up and down the grid, and no one other than our leader seems to be on their own when it comes to battling.
The most important thing that I saw today was that, yes, there's a fight for the podium spots in the top class, and yes, there's a fight for all the positions in the second class as well. It's going to be a very interesting season as we enter the middle section.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm looking forward to next week, Bathurst. It's well, basically all walls, so passing is going to be difficult. So I've got a feeling the drivers will be putting an extra strong emphasis on qualifying.
It sure will. Folks, we'd like to thank you for joining us today on behalf of the entire broadcast team. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Nate and Jedi Jake the Bosmeister Boswell. From the stewarding team to the admins, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.